ogobera programu ya Rwasa.
Thank you so much for choosing to watch Dream TV. Peace Nobame is my name, and if you're just joining us, this is the news at 4 p.m. Now, starting from Parliament. Speaker of Parliament Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga has raised concern over the continuous existence of polythene bags below 30 microns on the market, yet they were banned by law. Now, she made the remarks while flagging off the march organized by Worldwide Fund for Nature organization for the creating of awareness about the dangers of plastics and polythene bags. Now, this campaign is termed Earth Hour 2020. We have more to this story. Let us see what happened.
Space, Space. Space here. Space here.
For the anthem, the band, please give us the national anthem. Get ready for the anthem. Yes. Okay, the Ugandan anthem. You should learn to read. Head of the WWF. I'm happy to be here with you again. I launched the Earth Hour about 4 years ago at Serena Hotel, and I'm glad that we are back on the same job. Only that today we have got our children who should grow up in a better society with better knowledge and be able to assist us in implementing our laws. The plastics are of different types, and some of them are really, really dangerous. They are dangerous to the animals, just the environment, and sometimes people use them for cooking, and then they need our lives, where we can get cancer out of using plastic.
Yeah, I think we should first try to understand what types of kavera are there. For instance, if you are going to sell sugar, what if you use a kavera? So there are those which are banned and we should not be anywhere in the market. Those are the ones below 30 microns. We should not be anywhere in the market. So I think we should first concentrate on handling the ones which were banned, and then leave the ones which are well within the way. We appreciate that Parliament, we have already put a ban to plastic of 30 microns and below. And therefore, it has been a while, and we see that it is not totally working for us. We have alternatives to plastics. We have alternatives, and even before this plastic business came into the country, we had our alternatives. We have paper bag factories operating this country. We have alternative of banana leaves, other alternatives.
We want to raise the awareness of people about their nature. We want people to understand that without nature, there's nothing you can do. You cannot do any business, you cannot do any good farming, you cannot do any fisheries, you cannot do any forestry work. Then economic activity will be completely curtailed.
On a different note, the Parliamentary Committee on Natural Resources is stuck with a petition filed by a group of artisanal and small-scale gold miners from Mubende district who were evicted by authorities from their gold-rich land and relocated to a very barren land. There is a story.
It's a matter of compensation for a period of 3 years, and that was April 6th.
That where you gave people, there is gold. They've gone there, they've dug 42 holes, there is no gold. It is not them to prove again. Because where they were working, they had proved that there was gold. He sent them to a place where there is no gold, and they are telling you there is no gold.
Over 500 cars. The whole place came up because of us who were illegal as you take us. We need only 1 square kilometer. We also, and this we develop so that we can have a livelihood. There's nothing much I need. I'm not a politician. That's the only thing I need. I'm sorry. Break down.
It is the Lanchensi here. We shall hear his good opinion, because
If I take a decision, all of you will abandon me, I will go to court. The company will take me to court. Therefore, that's why we want to reach a compromise. If you are taking the 1 square kilometer, the company consents. Otherwise, I will be in the court. The company has spent money, and therefore their investment must be considered when you are considering granting 1 square kilometer.
Now, Forum for African Women Educationists, FAWE, have appealed to government to awaken the sexuality education framework that was rejected in 2018 by different stakeholders as a way of reducing early pregnancies and uninformed decisions made by young people that at times result into school dropouts. Now, this has been revealed by Susan Opok.
If you say that it's mainly the rural areas that is most affected, I think that is challenging because we haven't carried out research. But generally I can say that there is a problem for the young people, and sexuality education is a must-do everywhere for our young people in order for them to accurately make decisions that can improve their lives. As we've heard, we can do in school and out of school. The focus so far has been mainly in the school, that is within the formal system, help the population and those that are against this framework for sexuality education to understand the purpose. We all know what the problems that the country is having. We've spoken now, said that 25% of young people nationally, teenage pregnancies are 25%. We've said that only 32% of young women and 38% of young men have not engaged in sex by the age of 15.
Increasingly, parents especially and various gatekeepers don't have time to engage with their children and the young people. And we felt like, and we know that statistics shows that, especially at the primary school level, many of the children are enrolled into school. But not only at the primary school level, further, most of them go to secondary school. So we feel like if the sexuality education is integrated in the school curriculum, most of the children who we are targeting to learn about sexuality and skills and living will be targeted.
You are still watching Dream TV News this evening. Now drifting into our international stories. DR Congo troops have captured 40 fighters from a militia blamed for killing hundreds of thousands of massacres across the restive eastern part of the country, the UN mission MONUSCO said on Wednesday.
The Allied Democratic Forces is the main militia force operating in eastern DR Congo and has been carrying out reprisal attacks on civilians in response to crackdown by the military, known as FARDC. Lieutenant Colonel Claude Raoul Jehongo, a MONUSCO spokesman, said that a joint operation against ADF has allowed the FARDC to capture 40 fighters close to Makeke. The operation in the Beni region on February 9th came after at least 7 civilians were killed in latest suspected ADF massacre in the area. More than 300 people have been killed in ADF attacks in eastern DR Congo since the end of October, when the army began its operations against the militia group.
Now, the head of the military council now running Sudan, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has told the rights group he will cooperate fully with the International Criminal Court (ICC) as the way of seeking to bring the former President Omar al-Bashir to trial for war crimes and crimes against humanity. There is a story.
This is the first time Sudan's leader has commented personally on the matter since his administration first confirmed its intention to hand over Mr. Bashir earlier this week. Former President Bashir, who was removed from power in 2019 following months of popular uprising, has always denied the allegations against him. Top Sudanese officials say that the country's new rulers have agreed with rebel groups to send Bashir and 3 former ADs to the Hague-based court for their role in the conflict in the western Darfur region. The conflict in Darfur erupted in 2003 when ethnic minority rebels took up arms against Bashir's then Arab-dominated government, accusing it of economic and political marginalization.
And the Constitutional Court in Malawi has rejected an appeal brought by President Peter Mutharika and Malawi's Electoral Commission to suspend the judgment it made last the ruling May's election.
The court also dismissed the electoral body's claim that another election would be too expensive. Judge Dingiswayo Madise said democracy was costly and the rights of citizens were paramount. The court's initial ruling invalidated Mr. Mutharika's narrow victory on the grounds of widespread polling irregularities. It has ordered a rerun of the poll within 5 minutes. Last week, after losing an election petition, Peter Mutharika said that he would not contest a court ruling that overturned his election last May. Judges annulled the vote, citing irregularities, and ordered a new election within 150 days. There have been regular anti-government protests since the election.
And the European Union has described as astonishing the extent of vote rigging in last October's elections in Mozambique.
In their final report, published on Wednesday, EU observers gave a withering assessment of the polls, saying they found fraud at almost every stage of the process. The election meant to help cement a peace deal in the southern African nation was won by the governing Frelimo party. The EU was especially critical of irregularities in opposition strongholds, which it is said benefited Frelimo and its candidate. The Mozambican Electoral Commission's competence and credibility were not just questioned by the EU, but ridiculed. But as damning as this final report may be, it seems unlikely to make any immediate difference to the political landscape in Mozambique.
Now, the number of deaths and new cases from China's coronavirus outbreak spiked dramatically on Thursday after authorities changed the way they count infections in a move that will likely fuel speculation that the severity of the outbreak has been underreported. We have a story to this.
The hard-hit central province of Hubei reported 242 deaths in just one day and 14,840 new patients, by far its biggest one-day tally since the crisis erupted last month. The jump raised the death toll to 1,355 and the total number of nationwide infections to nearly 60,000 just hours after President Xi Jinping remarked that there were positive results from the government's drastic measures to contain the virus, and a top Chinese expert predicted the epidemic would peak this month. Officials in Hubei said they were broadening their definition for coronavirus cases by including people clinically diagnosed with the virus in the daily tally.
It is indeed a very, very sad story. Now let's all be vigilant to stay healthy. That story marks the end of Dream TV News at 4 p.m. Thank you so much for being with us. From the point we started to this very point, please stick around. Up next is sports updates. I want to remind you of the lunch hour fellowships that take place here at Victory Christian Center Endeavor. Come pray with us. Life will not be the same. I will see you later at 9. Good evening for now.